guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be talking about all the books that I want to read in 2024, and let's just say this list is very ambitious. Looking over all of these, I'm like, yeah, how is that gonna happen? I'm hoping to get in more reads next year. A lot of this year I was in school for like 5 months, so I really did not read during that time. I am hoping this year I can read a little bit more. So far for this year I am at 26 books, I want to say, maybe 25. There's still like 2 weeks left in this month, so I'm hoping I'll get to like 28 or something like that. My goal for this year was 50, and obviously I didn't reach that. So my goal for this year, I'm gonna try for 50 books again. I feel like I can actually do it this time. I have a lot more free time now, and since I am filming book content now, it just pushes me to read books faster and spend more time doing that. So yeah, that is my goal for this year, and I have so many books on my physical TBR, and I really need to get another bookshelf because the one that I have is literally almost full. When I have all of my books on there, it gets really full, so I'm probably going to have to get another one of those soon. Although I did ask for a TBR card for Christmas, so I will probably be able to utilize that as well. Obviously, the amount of books that you read does not really matter as long as you're enjoying the book and having fun doing it. So if I'm not just gonna push myself to reach that goal just because I want to reach it. Like, I want to make sure that I'm actually enjoying those books. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into all of the books that I want to read in 2024. I'm so excited. There's some great new releases coming out that I'm really looking forward to, so we will talk about those in this video. Okay, so obviously I'm going to start off with romance because that is my most loved genre, the most that I read. So the first book that I have here is Scarred. This is by Emily McIntyre. I read Hooked. That was her first book in this series. I'm not sure the name of the series, but it's basically like Disney movie retellings. Hooked, which I read about 5 months ago probably, that one is the Peter Pan retelling, which I didn't know because I've never seen Peter Pan, or maybe I have, I just don't remember it. So when I heard that, I was like, wait a second, like, that's so cool how she does that in her writing. So yeah, that one I didn't really catch on to because I've never seen Peter Pan, but for those of you who have seen it, I'm sure you would really like it. Scarred here is a Lion King retelling, which Lion King is one of my all-time favorite Disney movies. Like, I could literally watch that movie over and over and never get tired of it. So I keep forgetting I have this book, but I need to read this book. Oh, I'm just so excited for it. So her books are about like the bad guys in the Disney movies. So this one will mainly focus on Scar. Oh, I really need to read this. Just filming this video is making me 10 times more excited to get to this book. So I'm gonna pick this up hopefully very soon in 2024. So next we have The Icebreaker. This is by Hannah Grace. And I know there is a name to this series as well, and I don't know the name of it, but so this book is about a hockey player and a figure skater. So it sounds like they both have to share the hockey arena together, or the ice arena together. This is like a forced proximity, and they both go to the University of California. I don't want to go like too much into all these books because I do have a ton to get through. There is a second book to this series called Wildfire. I don't know if it's like friends of these two or if it's the same people. I don't think it's the same. This is probably going to be a really good winter book to read, so hopefully I can read this when it starts to get snowy out. These books I have wanted to read for so long. I have the last 2 books in the Knock 'Em Out series. So if you don't know the Knock 'Em Out series, the first book is a blue cover. It is called Things We Never Got Over, and I read that, I want to say like July of this year. These books are just so massive. Like, romance books that are like 600 pages long. That's so weird though, because if you look at the Magnolia Park series, those books are like 600 pages and they're not even near as thick as this. So I'm wondering why this one is so much thicker than that book. Anyways, yeah, I need to read the rest of this series. I did try to start this one. I literally read the first page and I was like, yeah, I can't do this right now. I need to go back and like look at how the first book ended because I honestly don't remember at all. I remember a little bit, obviously, like the biggest part of the story. These are very intimidating books, so hopefully we eventually get to them at some point. Next up we have Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. You guys, I posted a reading vlog of reading Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez, and that is my least favorite book of this year for sure. I did not like that book at all. I literally gave it 2 stars. So there's so many reasons. If you go back and watch that reading vlog, there was so many things that I did not like about that book. So I'm just very nervous to get into another one of her books because I Don't know if it's gonna be like the same kind of concept. Her writing is obviously gonna be very similar. I did not like how quick of a romance it was. Like, it was literally, they saw each other for one night and they were like in love, and I was like, that's just not what I enjoy in a romance book. I need like the build up and the backstory and all of that. I think this is about Brianna, which is the friend of I think her name's Alexis in the first book. They're like interconnected standalones, so you don't have to read them together, but they're also like connected characters. And this is I think the guy donates like a transplant for someone that she knows. I want to give this the benefit of the doubt because I have heard so many good things about it, but I'm just very nervous to get into it. I don't know. Next we have the Twisted series by Anna Hong. I have the first two books here. So first book is Twisted Love, and then we have Twisted Games. I bought these so long ago and I've yet to get into them. I think it's just very intimidating to me because it is a 4-series book, and I think it's also fantasy as well. Like, it's a romantasy. I don't know why, I've just always been intimidated by this series, but I have heard such good things about this too. I remember when I bought the first book, the lady that was working at Barnes & Noble, she was like, oh my god, that is my favorite series ever, and she just like raved about it. I've also heard that it is very, very spicy though, and that is just, that's not always my favorite part of a book, so I'm kind of nervous. I'm definitely gonna read this year. It's not a question, I need to read this series. The next book we have is The Light We Lost. This is by Jill Santopolo. This cover is so pretty. I love it. I'm not exactly sure why I bought this book. I think I just heard someone talk about it in a video or a TikTok or something, and that it was a really good book. It's about two people who meet at Columbia University. When they meet again a year later, it seems fated. Perhaps they'll find life's meaning in each other, but then Gabe becomes a photojournalist assigned to the Middle East, and Lucy pursues a career in New York. What follows is a 13-year-old odyssey of dreams, jealousies, and ultimately of love. Their journey takes Lucy and Gabe continents apart, but never out of each other's hearts. And Lucy will find herself asking, was it fate that brought them together? Is it choice that kept them away? Next book we have is All That We Never Were, and this cover is gorgeous, you guys. Look how beautiful that is. This is by Alice Kellen. I've never heard of that author, but I literally picked this up at Meijer, I think, just because the cover was gorgeous. So that is the one reason why I bought this book. But it looks like there's actually a second book to this too, which is called All That We Are Together. Looking at the back, it sounds like it's another brother's best friend, so that should be an interesting read. But yeah, it also looks super quick. I'm not sure if this is YA romance. Okay guys, I've talked about this series so much on my channel and on my TikTok. Also, if you aren't following my TikTok, go follow me on there because I have had a lot of traction over there recently and I'm loving posting videos. I have been posting book content, really just any like life content that I can think of. I've been doing it over there, so go follow me on TikTok. It is just my name, Allyssa M. Roberson, I think. But anyways, I have been talking about this book everywhere. So this is the Chestnut Spring series. There are 5 books total in this series. They're all about different brothers and cousins, I think. I don't really know exactly. There's all different kind of tropes in here. There's an age gap romance, forced proximity, lots of different stuff. This is a no questions asked. I need to read this series this year. I need to read it. You guys, tell me in the comments that I need to read this. What was I gonna say? That's a family... something family. Found family, I think. That's what I've heard people say. Next up we have In 5 Years. This is by Rebecca Searle. I don't know. But the cover, again, is gorgeous. I'm loving all of the covers on here. This book looks absolutely tiny. This book is 250 pages. I need to read this like now. I just bought this the other day just because I read the back and I was like, wow, that sounds really interesting. So I decided to pick it up, and this is about a girl who has just recently gotten engaged, and she ends up taking a nap and she wakes up and she is 5 years in the future, and she is like very confused on where she is. She actually has an engagement ring of a different guy on her finger, and she is like, what the heck is going on? And she's only in that setting for like an hour, and then she wakes up and she is like, what the heck just happened? Like, where is my life going? So I don't know, I just thought the premise of this was very interesting and I've never really heard anything like it. All right, the next book we have is The Love Wager by Lynn Painter. This is again another super quick romance book. You guys, I've been reading like 600-page romance books. Like, I read the Magnolia Park series. Those were so long, and although they are super quick reads, like, I don't know, the writing in them is just like so easy to read. They're still like long books, so I'm just not used to reading like 300-page books. So I actually read a whole book yesterday and it was like 300 pages, and I was like, wow, what is this like to read one book in one day? Like, it was just so weird for me. But anyways, this is a workplace romance. I think they're like each other's wing person, and then they end up going to a wedding together, and you know, obviously we all know what happens in a romance. But yeah, that is that one. I've only read one of Lynn Painter's books, and that was a YA book, and I really liked it. That was better than the movies. It wasn't anything spectacular, but it was like a super cute book, so I'm excited to read another one of her books. The next book we have here is A Thousand Boy Kisses. This is by Tilly Cole. I feel like this is like an OG TikTok book. I've heard it's a really sad book as well. I think this is another YA romance book, childhood friends to lovers. I don't know if this is gonna end good or bad because everyone does say it's like super sad. I have to get to it because I have to know what all of the sadness is about. Okay, let me get into the romance books that I don't have physical copies of. The first book is obviously Emily Henry's new book called Funny Story. Emily Henry is hands down my favorite author. I've literally loved every single one of her books. Beach Read wasn't like my favorite, but I still really liked that book. Even People We Meet on Vacation, I had such high skeptics going into that book because like almost everyone I heard talk about that book did not like it at all, and I loved it so much. I just always feel like I could connect to her characters so much and really relate to what they're going through. The quotes that she uses, like everything about her is just perfect. So yeah, she is coming out with a new book in April, I believe, and I'm not exactly sure what it's about, but I just know it's gonna be like an auto buy for me, like no questions asked. I'm gonna be pre-ordering that for sure. And then I also do want to reread Happy Place again, and I want to annotate that whole book because that is my favorite book that I've ever read. As we know, I've talked about it so many times, but I also want to get into the Twilight series. I have never seen any of the Twilight movies or read any of the Twilight books. I was just not like a reader in high school, and I also didn't really watch anything other than like iCarly and Hannah Montana, so I never got into the Twilight series, so I really want to read that. I don't know, I know the books are like huge, but that's just like a really big goal for me for this year. Also, we had the Dreamland Billionaire series by Lauren Asher that includes The Fine Print, Terms and Conditions, and one other book. I cannot think of it right now, but I've heard that that is like a Disneyland story type thing. It's like a found family, they own like a theme park, and it has just been inherited by the sons. I really don't know like anything about it. That's another intimidating series, but I know like I've been eyeing that every single time I go to the bookstore. I'm like, do I get this? Do I get this? But I want to finish other series that I already have on my bookshelf before I get into another one. And then another book by Lauren Asher is Love Redesigned. That one just came out recently, and I just heard like literally everyone say good things about it. That's another book that I'm going to read this year. Let's go into mystery thriller books because I don't have that many of those. The first book that we have here is The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. She's a very famous mystery thriller author. I feel like she has come out with so many new books recently. This is the first book, and then the other one is The Housemaid's Secret. I think this lady works in a house and just some creepy things start to happen. I always love mystery thrillers because they're just so quick and easy and they keep you hooked. Usually they have a big shock to them, and that is like one of my favorite things about books. Looking forward to that one, and also reading the second book in the series. The next book that we have here is The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. Again, another author that I've heard great things about. This book is about Casey. She lives on a lake house and she has neighbors across the lake, Tom and Catherine. One day she saves Catherine from drowning, and the two strike up a budding friendship. But the more they get to know each other and the longer Casey watches, it becomes more clear that Catherine and Tom's marriage isn't as perfect as it appears. When Catherine suddenly vanishes, Casey immediately suspects Tom of foul play. What she doesn't realize is that there's more to the story than that meets the eye, and that shocking secrets can lurk beneath the most placid of surfaces. So this one sounds very interesting. I think Haley Pham has talked about this book a lot and said that it was really good. So that's why I bought the book. Next up, we have a Colleen Hoover book, the only Colleen Hoover book that I'm going to be talking about in this video, which is crazy because I literally got into reading by reading her books. I have not read one of her books in a very long time. This is a different genre that I've read of hers. So this is, like I said, a mystery thriller. This is called Too Late. Honestly, I have no idea what this is about, but one of my friends recommended this to me actually, and she was like, you have to read this book. She just said it was really good, so that is why I bought it for her, and yeah, I need to read this book. I'm so scared to read it in my apartment though because I'm like alone, and I was actually gonna read this last night because I was doing like a 24-hour readathon, and I was like, no, I can't, I'm too scared. So we have Local Woman Missing. This is by Mary Kubika. My cousin actually recommended this book to me. I don't know what it's about. I'm assuming it's about a girl that goes missing. I think a few people go missing actually, and then one of them comes back like several years later and they're all like, what the heck is going on? So I also have one that I don't have a physical copy of, and that is The Fury by Alex Michaelides. I recently read The Silent Patient by him and I loved it so much. It was a really good book. I think I rated it like 4.5 stars. But yeah, love that book, definitely recommend. So I'm excited to read another one of his books. I guess I don't really know if it's mystery thriller, but I'm just gonna assume it is because that's usually what he writes. The next book I have is definitely my most intimidating read on my bookshelf, and I actually did try to start this book not too long ago, a few months ago probably, and I got 16 pages in and I was like, yeah, this is not happening right now. As much as I did want to get into it, it is just like, it takes so much brain power. I already know. That is A Little Life by Hanya. I'm not gonna try to say that, but this is what the book looks like, and this book is 800 pages. Yeah, 816 pages. Oh, if you guys felt this book, like, it is so heavy. It's literally massive. First of all, there was so many characters in the first page. Like, I was like, wait a second, who are all these people? Like, what is going on? And my friend actually told me that she had to make a list in her notes and like write out who each character was because that was the only way that she could remember. You guys, I've heard so many good things about this book and I do want to get into it. It's just like so intimidating, and like I literally could not comprehend what was going on. So I might like try to read this throughout the whole year and just read a little bit at a time, because 800 pages is a lot of time to dedicate to one book, especially a literary fiction book. But yeah, this is about 4 guys in college and it follows the life of Jude, which it says a man scarred by an unspeakable childhood trauma. So 100% check the trigger warnings on this book before you pick it up. But yeah, this is a huge goal of mine to read for this year, and I really hope that I can get to it. At least like half of the book. That is one of my books that I need to read this year. Some other books that I want to read are by Catherine Center. I don't really know the category of her books. I've heard like some of them are romance, some of them are literary fiction, women's fiction. Yeah, I do want to get into her books. I've never read a book by her, so I have The Bodyguard that I really want to read, Hello Stranger, and I think she is also coming out with another book this year. I don't know the name of that one, but the last category we have here is fantasy books, and I'm sure you guys can guess some of the books that are probably going to be on my TBR for this year. I've talked about them so many times. The first series that I want to get to is The Inheritance Games. I actually started the first book here. I'm going to try to read it for a reading vlog. I'm about 100 pages into the book, which is about a quarter of the way into it. I do really enjoy it. I stopped reading it because I ended up picking up Iron Flame instead, and that was just a bigger priority at the time. But yeah, there are 3 books in this series. I've heard nothing but good things about Jennifer Lynn Barnes. The first 100 pages of this were super quick to get into. So if you don't know what this is about a girl who kind of comes from nowhere. Her mom is like not really in the picture. She's just watching over herself with her sister. One day she has someone show up at her school and he basically tells her that she has just inherited all of this money from the guy's grandfather. And so she's flown out to this huge mansion where all of these brothers live and all the workers of this guy live. They basically think she's a fraud. Like, why is this young girl getting all of this money? And she has no idea who the guy is, so it's just all a very odd situation for all of them. But yeah, she gets like all of his assets, all of his money, and the grandchildren, and all the workers get very little of what this guy had. Just a very interesting concept and storyline, and I do really want to get like immersed into this story because I just have heard really good things about her and her books. And also another series that I do want to read is the Natural series. That one has 4 books in it. I do have the first one. I didn't add it in here because I specifically want to get through this one first. There's only so much time in the year, so if I don't get to that one, then it's okay. Okay, we all know what's coming next, right? So I really want to get into the acotar series. I only have the first 2 books, but I need to go out and get the other 3. So there are 5 books in this series. If you don't know, this is a very popular series this year and throughout the past few years, I think. I don't know how long these have been out for, but Sarah J. Maas is like one of the top authors on YouTube, TikTok. Like, everyone really talks about her. I went to the bookstore the other day and they had a whole like wall full of all of her books. She has so many different series, but this one is probably the most popular. The first book is called A Court of Thorns and Roses. I've said this in another video. I don't really know what the series is about, and I don't want to know because I don't want to give it away before I get into the book. I know this is going to take a lot of brain power and a lot of time because these books are obviously like massive, and I think there's just a lot to them. But yeah, obviously I want to be in the loop of what everyone's talking about and what this series is about. This is a definite read this year. I don't know when I'll get to it, but 100% I have to read these this year. I also need to get the other 3 books. Next up we have the Shatter Me series. This is by Tara Maffey. I've had this series for actually such a long time. I actually bought this first book at the beginning of this year and I've yet to read it. I think it's just another very intimidating series because there are like 7, 8 books to this series. Some of them are novellas, so they're like very short books, but I just have never felt like it's the right time to read it, and I don't want to force myself. I would ideally like to read acotar first, but I'm like, maybe I should just read this because I'd get through it so much quicker. I love the covers of them too. They're so unique and just like beautiful, honestly. I'm gonna read the back of the first one. I honestly don't really know what this series is about either. It says, no one knows why Juliet's touch is fatal, but the reestablishment has plans for her, plans to use her as a weapon. But Juliet has plans of her own. After a lifetime without freedom, she's finally discovering a strength to fight back for the very first time and to find a future with the one boy she thought she lost forever. In the electrifying first book in the Shatter Me series, Tara Maffey presents a riveting and dystopian world, a thrilling superhero story, and an unforgettable heroine. Kind of reminds me of Frozen, just because Elsa in the book, she obviously has like a fatal ice touch. Not that that really is what this is about, but it just sounds like that because it said that her touch is fatal. But yeah, first 2 books in this I have, again, I don't know why I do that. I feel like I do that with so many, like the Twisted series, acotar. The next book that we have is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This is by V.E. Schwab. This book is also so large, like it's bigger than my face. I think I heard Rachel Catherine talk about this one time and I just thought that it sounded super interesting, so I went ahead and picked it up. I've also, again, had this for a very long time on my TBR. I think it's about a girl named Addie. She ends up somewhere that she has just forgotten literally everything. She doesn't know her own name and doesn't know anything around her, and she basically has to figure out like what happened and who she is and where her family is and all of that. Just a very interesting premise to the story. I'm excited to get into that one. This cover is also like so gorgeous. The back, love it. Okay guys, the last physical series that I have with me, I only have the first book, but I know I really want to get the last 2 books in the series, and that is the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. Oh my gosh, I want to read this so bad. You guys, literally look at this. Is that not the most gorgeous thing you've literally ever seen? Like the color, oh my god, I love it so much. So earlier this year I read the Caraval series by Stephanie Garber. I've heard that you should read that series first before getting into this, just because it gives you a little bit of backstory, especially on the character Jax. Definitely learned about him in that series, so I feel ready to go into this series. Honestly, the only reason I have not started this series is because I have the first book in a paperback, obviously. At Barnes & Noble's, they only sell the hardcovers of the next 2 books. I'm literally waiting for the paperbacks to come in of the last 2 books in the series because I want them to all match and I want them to all be cohesive. I just feel like it's pointless to get the hardcover of this one because I already have this book. I don't need to buy another one. That's literally so lame, but that's the only reason I have not gotten into this book. Yeah, I mean, I know it's gonna be a super quick read. Like the words on this are huge, so I know I'll get through it super fast. And I did really enjoy the Caraval series. I want to read it so bad, but I also like, I need to wait until the other books come in. I might have to buy them online, honestly. Okay, I have 2 more series on my phone that I don't have the physical copies of for fantasy, and those are the Throne of Glass series and Crescent City. I don't think I'm going to get through all of these, honestly. If you don't know, those are the 2 other series that Sarah J. Maas has written. So the reading order that you're supposed to do is like acotar first, then Throne of Glass, then Crescent City. I definitely want to read the acotar series this year. I'm hoping to be able to start the Throne of Glass series, but again, that series is like 8 books, I think. I'm definitely not going to get through all of them, but they obviously are like books that I eventually want to read, so I just added them in here. Alright guys, that concludes the end of my video. Those are all the books that I would really like to get to in 2024. I know I'm not going to get to all of them. I think I don't even know how many books I talked about. So I talked about 29 physical books. I know I talked about like at least 10 books that I don't have. So that That's at least 40 books. But I know like throughout the year I'm gonna pick up other books that are obviously not on this list. So those are definitely gonna play a part in that. I have so many books on my physical TBR. This is like not even all of them. So love that for me. But anyways, that is it for today's video. I hope that you guys enjoyed. Comment down below how many books you want to read this year. Like I said, my goal is 50. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.